If you're watching this video, you need help watching what you see in the graphs and what you think it means. Start by just writing what you see. I'm going to open the graphs to see them bigger, and let's write what we see. So let's notice what we see about water. I might write, I see McKenna's small intestine has the same amount of water as a healthy small intestine at the beginning. I see that McKenna's small intestine has the same amount of water as a healthy small intestine in the beginning. Okay, so that's one thing that I see. Let's go back to our graphs. I'm looking at water by the time food gets to the middle of the small intestine, and I'm also noticing that McKenna's small intestine, in the orange, has the same amount of water as a healthy small intestine. So I'm going to write that too. I see that McKenna's small intestine has the same amount of water as a healthy small intestine in the middle. So here we noticed it was the same in the beginning, and here we noticed it was the same in the middle. Let's see what else we notice. I'm looking at glucose and complex carbohydrates, and I'm noticing that this looks pretty different for McKenna. I'm going to choose to write about complex carbohydrates. So I'm noticing that McKenna's small intestine has more complex carbohydrates than a healthy small intestine at the beginning. So I'm going to write that. I see that McKenna's small intestine has, I'm going to double check, has more complex carbohydrates in the beginning of her small intestine. Let's see what happens in the middle to those complex carbohydrates. Wow, so McKenna still has more, but a healthy small intestine has none. That's interesting. So I see that McKenna's small intestine has more complex carbohydrates in the middle of her small intestine, and that a healthy small intestine has none. Wow, that's crazy. I wonder if there's other that have none. Oh, this is interesting. In a healthy small intestine, look, there are no amino acids, no protein, no fat, and no complex carbohydrates. There is water, fatty acids, glucose, although McKenna has a lot more, and fiber. So I'm also going to write that because let's see, here it says 0 in the middle. Yeah, but a healthy small intestine has those in the beginning. So something's happening to them as they go to the middle of the small intestine. So I'm going to write, I see that there is no, I'm going to double check what the names of the molecules were, amino acids, proteins, what else is there none of? Amino acids, proteins, fats, or complex carbohydrates in a healthy small intestine. Now it's time for me to write about what I think this means. So number 1, I said, I see McKenna's small intestine has the same amount of water as a healthy small intestine in the beginning. So in the beginning, we had the same amount of water. So I think this means that whatever McKenna's small intestine is doing with water is exactly what it's supposed to be doing, because the healthy small intestine is doing it too. So I'm going to say, I think this means that McKenna's small intestine is doing what it needs to do with water at the beginning, because it's exactly the same. Next, I see that McKenna's small intestine has the same amount of water as a healthy small intestine in the middle. So in the middle of her small intestine, it still had the same amount of water. I think that means that even in the middle of her small intestine, whatever her body is doing with water, it's what it's supposed to be doing. So again, I think this means that McKenna's small intestine is doing what it needs to do with water at the beginning, in the middle, Next, I see that McKenna's small intestine has more complex carbohydrates in the beginning of her small intestine. So I'm looking at the beginning of her small intestine and complex carbohydrates, and I can see she has more. That's telling me that something's going on in her small intestine there with the complex carbohydrates. That's not good because it's so different from a normal person. From a healthy person. So I might say, I think this means that something is happening before the small intestine for McKenna, because she has more complex carbohydrates than a healthy person. Next, I see that McKenna's small intestine has more complex carbohydrates in the middle of her small intestine and that a healthy small intestine has none. So we're in the middle of her small intestine, and we saw that she definitely had complex carbohydrates, but that the healthy small intestine has none. What do you think that means? Do your best to figure this one on your own, and figure this one out on your own, and remember, it does not have to be perfect. So what do you think it means that McKenna's small intestine, when the food gets to the middle, has so much complex carbohydrates, but a healthy small intestine has none? Do you think that means that her small intestine is doing what it's supposed to do with the complex carbohydrates? Finally, challenge yourself. What do you think it means that in a healthy small intestine there are no amino acids, proteins, fats, or complex carbohydrates by the time the food gets to the middle of her small intestine? What does that tell you about what the function or the job of the small intestine might be? Remember, you're making your best guess. It does not need to be perfect.